Hi, I'm Chad Bruckner. I'm an author, a coach, and a motivational speaker. I wrote a book called The Holy Trinity of Successful and Healthy Police Organizations, Improving Leadership, Culture, and Wellness. American policing is at a crisis right now, and the American military is not too far behind. Recruitment and retention is at an all-time crisis mode, and I believe the answer to that is through our organizational cultures. By fixing and repairing from within, just like we would do in our families and our homes. Cops and soldiers are not showing up like they used to. The cultures in our military organizations, police agencies, they are not well. So I ask you to join me on this movement, buy it for a friend, read it, and learn something about organizational culture, leadership, and wellness, and how they all play a role to us bringing cops and soldiers back to restore the ranks.
Chris, what's up, brother? How are you doing, man?
Hey, Chad, it is so good to be here.
It is, man. This is so good. So today, September 15th, people will watch this later, but today I have a book being launched, and you were a big part of this process. So I wanted to kind of walk people through this process of what this looked like. My book is The Holy Trinity of Successful and Healthy Police Organizations, Improving Leadership, Culture, and Wellness. And man, this project wouldn't have got done without you. So can you just tell us a little bit of like who you are, what's your background, how you became a publisher, and how that process happened?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Chris O'Byrne, and I live in tropical Minnesota. And so the short version of my past was going from farm boy into the Air Force into lots of different jobs. I was a chemical engineer for 10 years. I taught high school for 10 years. Um, Worked with the developmentally disabled for a long time while I was doing pieces of those. So quite a varied background. And somewhere along the way, I was like, I just got to do my own thing. And I want to live somewhere, not Minnesota. I want to be able to live somewhere else. And so I decided to try to make a living online and eventually fell into editing. And so I was a freelance editor for a while until somebody asked me if I could design an ebook for them. And I said, well, sure. And then I quick get on Google and look up how to do an ebook and figured that out. And then the same thing, the cover and the interior. And then I realized two things. One, I had a business and I needed to figure that out. And two, I am not a designer. And so I needed to hire people that could design and that worked out beautifully. And I fell in love with the whole process of building a business and especially building a publishing business because I've always loved books. I grew up living in the library. It's always been a passion of mine. So to be able to make that my business and help other people create these books that I grew up reading and loving, that was just the best of all worlds put together.
Wow, that's fascinating. You touched on something that I think every entrepreneur has. It's the passion. It is a
Mm.
passion and a drive to want to get that word out or that mission or that message. And you hit it on the head. It's like you're Googling how to do this. You didn't really care that you didn't know how to do it. You were going to find a way to learn how to do it. And I think that's the skill of anybody in entrepreneurship or business, or really any profession. If you want to be great at something, you don't have to know it. You just got to have the drive to want to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything is learnable. And so what we do now, my company is called JETLAUNCH Publishing, and we help people with from everything from writing their books through the editing and design piece into the bestseller launch and the marketing, and then incorporating that all of that into their own business if they have an existing business, incorporating it into that, helping them get the influence and visibility they want, and just putting all of that together. And then the focus, of course, is the book.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to your process. I want to talk about that a little briefly from the user side of it. I had a vision of what I wanted to do, but like anything else, having done it before, I need the people in my corner who are the professionals and give me that feedback. So I felt that you guys, Jet Launch, does a really good job of being collaborative, being partners on the project, having great care to give the suggestions and the feedback, and also respectful to let kind of the artist or the writer kind of figure out what that feedback and not push it, which I really thought was cool. even though I'm new at it, I kind of had an idea where I wanted to go or what I wanted it to look like at the end. And I just thought that process was collaborative, was really nice. Having your project manager assigned to it, having a direct point of contact you can work through, and she got all the ISBNs done for you. It was a very streamlined process. And if somebody's out there thinking about writing a book and they're like, I have this great message or story, that's really all you need. I mean, there are people out there, even if it's not Jet Launch, there's processes out there for you that could be right for you. That maybe you need a different model that's a little different than Jet Launch. But the point is, I know so many police officers, and I guess that's what the motivation for this video was, that have stories to tell, veterans that have stories to tell. Yeah. But in those communities, they struggle to come forward and tell their story. And whether they think that nobody cares or they're imposter syndrome, or, we're kind of silent professionals. We do this for the service, not for the attention. All noble things, by the way. Or a lot of it is, if it's like me, you don't think you're capable, or you don't have the goods to do it. And Chris, if you could talk a little bit about, what you've seen from kind of novice authors or people that are not professional authors, yet they had success, working through, Jet Launch.
Yeah. So, and again, I mean, you're right. They come in through all these different channels, and they come in with all these different skills and lack of skills. And so, even if all you have is that story, well, one, there are people out there who are really good book coaches. They can help you take this story and turn it into something beautiful and something that you're proud of. That's a big piece of it right there. You want to be proud of what you do. And so again, if you need a book coach, there are lots of book coaches out there. Some are very good at helping you write a book that's for your business. It's a business book. It's going to help you with your platform, and whether you're a speaker or a coach or whatever. There are other coaches that are very good at fiction books, and that's what they do, and or memoir or historical fiction. There are all sorts of whatever it is that's your best fit coming in. You can find somebody along the way who can provide that for you. So for example, if you have a business, or when I say business, again, it could be you speak, it could be that you're just doing something online. It doesn't matter what it is. There is no just this or that. I know somebody who not only does this business part, and both of these people, Ben and Donna. One of them, he's really good at the coaching and the business side of things and how to create a book and structure a book that's going to fit your particular business. And then here comes Donna, who has this whole TV network and podcast background, and they work together where you can come in and I'll generalize it. You record 13 hours of, it seems like a lot, but it goes pretty fast because you're coached and structured throughout the thing. But you record these 13 sessions of podcasts. Well, one, all of that gets broken up into a whole year's worth of a podcast. So boom, you have a podcast done. But two, every one of those sessions becomes a book chapter. And so you're coming in with an outline, some talking points, you have an idea of what you're going to talk about, and then you get on your show that you're recording and you talk through those things, and all of a sudden it's all coming together. And when you're done, not only do you have all those podcasts, but now you have you have an audio book because you recorded it, but you have an actual print book, or it will be, because you've gone through this whole process, and now you got 13 chapters. You've got everything you need, and you're almost done with that book as a whole. So that's one structure of doing it, that you come in and all of this is done, and you're just coming in with your passion or your expertise or your story. There are similar services and people out there that are going to help you with that. And then, what Jet Launch provides, like the core of what we do and have done for 16 years, is editing your manuscript, because nobody comes in with a well-edited manuscript. You need, even if you're an editor, you need other eyes. There are all sorts of ways to improve it. And you need somebody who understands all the technical pieces of design. You talked about being assigned a project manager. Well, we have a very structured system, very good, well-oiled machine going on, where we have tons and tons of, in our project management software, if you could see behind the scenes, everything leads, okay, this gets done, now this. Everything goes along so that it flows. which isn't always easy. Because another thing I wanted to bring up about your experience was you came in with an idea for a cover, and you worked with our cover designer, and we gave some suggestions and some samples, and you picked one. I really like this one, and then you had time to think about it
Mm.
because some of these things take time, and you're like, you know what, I really want to go this route, and then all of a sudden you got more time to think about it. The cover has changed, the title has changed, but now it it's better that way because now it really fits the message that you want to get across, the way you want to impact and help people. And so it's not a very, well, here's your cover, you're stuck with it. Here's your book, you're stuck with it. No, it's a process, an iterative process where we work with you through the whole thing. And your story is just a great example of that.
Yeah, that is a good story because your team was awesome of giving me the suggestions. We're going through the process. I didn't like something, or and it wasn't. I don't think we even had that many changes, but just that I know, like creatively
No,
for me, I when I have an idea what I want, sometimes I have to talk myself out of it. If it's not feasible, okay, well then I need, even because I wanted this, I got to move away from this. It's just I appreciate collaboration. I think in this world, seemingly we don't collaborate as well as I think we should do generally across the board. So when you have those projects where people are collaborating and companies are working together to collaborate, it's awesome. That's when mountains get moved. I feel like because one person, one entity, you can never do it on your own. You can't impact people unilaterally. I don't think you could do that. You need a team to do that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm glad you brought up that word collaboration because it is. I was calling it an iterative process. Really, it's a collaborative process, and that requires again the very structured system that things can keep flowing in, but not so stuck on following that you can't be collaborative and that you can't come out with something that's genius instead of something that's just pretty good.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you, a couple of times through the process, you would tell me that, like, hey, trying to do something really good. Like, you want something really good, right? And I'm like, yes, I want something really good. So I've always appreciated just those simple, kind of getting me back on track. And when you're dealing with authors, I'm sure you've seen all sorts of different personalities. Are there certain traits or things that you've noticed from more successful authors and maybe people that, let's say you're a storyteller out there and you think, I have this great story. I don't, if you're like me, you question everything. So I don't think this is a good story. I'm not going to do it. Have you noticed traits or certain characteristics in authors or stories specifically that you kind of knew, hey, this is something you should get out into the world, or is it just so unique you can't guess it?
Yeah, and so most authors are very hesitant. They're very they don't feel like maybe this is going to be this great big thing because maybe they're looking at this book or this author over here is doing so well, and they think, oh, I can't be like them. Look how polished and professional. Look at what a great story and all of this. But they didn't just get that way. They came through that very same process of they all started never having written a thing in their life. And then they kept through that process. And it was a constant, continual improvement. And it was never giving up.
Hmm.
Almost every author I've known has been hesitant or unsure of themselves. And that's fine. Be okay with that, understanding that you're not going to flip a switch and all of a sudden be very sure and certain about what you're doing. What it really is like is all of a sudden, here's your book and you're reaching people and you're making sales and lives are being changed and you're like, oh, holy cow, how did this happen? It,
Wow,
it,
that is
it,
so
you
cool.
know, and so the key to success really is just to keep going. Have your moments. Stop and take a breather if you need to, but then pick it up and keep going and keep going.
Show up every day, even if it's an inch at a time. Keep showing up. Real quick, I want to talk about your magazine too. Can you talk about that? Because I think it's another great thing. I would like to get the word out about the magazine you're
Oh
involved with.
yeah. Yep, I should have brought a little copy of it over here with me.
That's my
Um,
fault. I should have
so,
prepped you. That's my fault.
no, no problem at all. So it's a business magazine. It's called Pivot, and it is for primarily business leaders, whether you're a beginning business leader or you're way up there. We've had some people on the cover like Lee Steinberg, who's the real Jerry Maguire, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. One of the covers I'm most proud of is the one with General Petraeus. former director of the CIA, and before that, in charge of all the troops in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Central Command. It was phenomenal. Um, then we've had other covers where they're people that most people have never heard of, but they're still a business leader in their own way. And they have something there's still very valuable information to share. So with the magazine, it's a monthly print magazine. We also have a digital version, and um, it's people can pay to be on the cover. They can pay to do an article on the inside if they like who's going to be on the cover. They can do ads. We provide a platform, and we get lots of authors who use it to talk about their book, to talk about the story behind their book, or just to have an ad that, hey, here's my book and here's a little bit about it so people can get interested. We're reaching 30 million people in that magazine. Very proud of how many people we get it out to, and how many people that we're able to help because of that. Which reminds me, we need to get you in there. I don't think we have yet, have we?
I have not. No, be honored to. Yeah, be honored to. Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be
let's
great.
get you in there. And again, because you have a phenomenal story. I've heard just bits and pieces of it, but it all leads into your book as well. And so we can combine those, have an interview, and I do a lot of the articles by interview. So you don't have to write your article. We do an interview, and then we clean it up, transcribe it, clean it up, send it back to you. You approve everything. We're trying to make it very customer driven, very supportive,
I like
again,
that.
very collaborative.
Yeah, I mean, it's collaboration is huge. Let's go back. I want to go back real quick to the farm boy days, like farm boy Chris. What was that lifestyle like?
It was miserable. So,
Not what I expected. But
no, so the miserable part for me was I grew up in a very restricted household. We weren't allowed to go out for sports. We weren't allowed to do anything after school. You go to school, you come home, you do your chores, and there was really nothing else in between. So it was a struggle to develop socially, in a sense, and to make friends because their friends were at school, and that was it. You didn't get to do things after school. And so those are the miserable pieces. On the other hand, raised in southeastern Minnesota, this beautiful rolling bluff country, lots of trees. Um, you know, it wasn't the flat farm country you think of. That's just a little bit west of this area. Very beautiful, beautiful area, and because I wasn't doing all these things after school or at school, I was at home. I was spending a lot of time outside, and I think that really has kind of shaped me in a sense because I spent a lot of time alone, out in the woods, wandering around, hunting and fishing, and I think it has made me a little bit more contemplative than if I had a very socially focused life. And then, once I got in the Air Force, once you're in the military, there's no more solitude. You're
yeah,
you're thrown into a mix,
you're right
and
about that.
you learn.
Was there
And
an adjustment for you coming from that kind of restricted household? Then you're going to the military, it's way more free. I mean, there's obviously it's structured, but your nights and weekends are free to yourself, and you didn't probably have that growing up. So what was that like?
yeah, so the structure part was easy because we were very, very, very strict upbringing. But yeah, the freedom was an issue, and I didn't know how to handle it. I had to learn through trial and error, and I wish at that point, and I would love to provide this. Well, I provided for my children, I'm providing for my grandchildren, but this mentorship of understanding life. Hey, this you keep acting like this, the reason we tell you not to is because it's going to come back to bite you like this. These, this is why you want to. And so I really wish I had somebody kind of guiding me along saying, this is how you want to act. You know what? Don't fall into this. Don't, marry this person because they're the first one that comes along that shows interest in you, which I did.
Yeah,
Uh, you know,
that's a
and so a lot
military
of,
thing. It happens in the military.
yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. Yeah. a lot of trial and error, a lot of good things about the military, but a lot of, and it wasn't the military, it was the outside of the military. It was that freedom I had. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, learned the hard way.
Yeah, I listen. I think I've similar experiences, kind of falling down and learning how to. Okay, this is good. This is not good. This is good. This is okay. Oh, shouldn't do this. But I feel that's where the wisdom comes. It's like you kind of wish it's like the chicken or the egg. You wish you didn't fall down so much, but then again, that's kind of how you got to where you got to, maybe. So it's an interesting dichotomy, I think.
Yeah, it really is, and I have thought about that. I would not. I'm sure I wouldn't be here doing this. I would have followed a very structured path and done all these things, and probably never gotten so low that I had to figure it out on my own. And once you do that and you can figure it out on your own, and then you start realizing, I mean, I remember the realization that, wow, but what's your purpose in life? Like, why am I
Mm.
here? What's my purpose in life? Uh, a really big part of that is you get to decide. In fact, you
Yeah,
have to decide. If you don't decide what your purpose is, you're just reacting through life and you'll never have it. So when I realized I could decide what my purpose was, and that gets a little bit more affirmed and stronger every year, because
yeah,
now I'm accomplishing things that I never would have dreamed, and their accomplishments not in the fancy cars and big fine houses and all of that, but more of the inner accomplishments, or the inner pieces of that and what it's done for me. And yeah, having to create your own purpose and realizing that you can create your own purpose,
Hmm.
that's phenomenal.
Wow. You touch on first of all, that's incredible. And I'm learning new things about you. And second, I had these thoughts for so much of my life, and I think Iraq kind of accelerated them a little bit because I was only 24 when I was there. But the feeling of regret, the feeling of
Oh,
I don't want to sit in a rocking chair or a lazy boy or whatever, watching football at 74 years old, trying to get somebody like one of my sons to come watch the game with me. And there's texting me, like these are thoughts I had in my head. They're texting me excuses, which I probably know they're really not excuses, but I lie to myself and tell me they are because they're working. But the truth of the matter is I took them hostage and they'd rather not spend time with me in my 70s because of the stuff I did when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s as a dad. And man, those, Chris, whether it's good or bad, those things occupy my brain to the point where, kind of like you, where do I hope I have a lot of net worth one day? Sure. I think we all wish we had that. I think that's the goal in business. But to get that at the sacrifice of our self worth or sacrificing the people around us to get there, you touch it on you're coming from the heart. If you impact people and people are texting you and sending you videos where you're emoting saying thank you for help. I think I did that for you one time, or Ben or Meg.
oh yeah.
I was so overcome with emotion of literally coming from a place where people that you expect would put their life on the line can't even do a simple kind gesture for you. And then strangers want to do these amazingly kind gestures. It was just so confusing for me, but grateful. And I just really appreciate it. But I think those are the experiences that really transcend us. They're the ones that we talk about. They're the ones that people say, hey, go work with Chris O'Byrne because of this, because of that. Not because he's a high earner, because of this, that. Not say you're not a high earner. I'm just saying that the removing the heart from business, I think, has really done so many of us damage. And to
Yeah.
see you leading with the heart, I think that's why you're successful, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. One song that really impacted me in life is Cat's Cradle by Cat Stevens. And that impacted me because I've got children. I have 5 kids of my own. I have 10 grandkids. I
Wow.
did not want to live a life and I easily could have, live a life where my kids don't really want to come see me. My grandkids don't even know who I am. I don't really have that many friends. You got to put yourself out there and you got to go through uncomfortableness to get there. But the more that you do that and the more you put yourself out there, and like you said, the heart, the more you put your heart out there or you lead by the heart and you give, the more, well, one, the easier it gets, because it becomes a habit, but it also just creates the real wealth in your life. So many billionaires and definitely millionaires, they don't understand that until it's too late or after they're like, oh, I've reached everything I wanted. and then they realize how empty their life is.
Mm,
And
mm.
instead of all these years, they could have been building both of them at the same time. Because does it really take that much to do that kind gesture, to reach out, to spend 10 more minutes with your kid instead of just being like, sorry, I can't. I got to check my Facebook.
Oh, brother, I got goosebumps. You hit me on something that when I got in entrepreneurship, all I heard, not all, most of what I heard was you're going to have to grind like no other. Family's going to have to be on the back burner. You know, that's just what it's going to have to be for a few years. I'm like, oh my God. So I set those expectations of my family. And then I did not find that to be true. So what
Thank
I mean is
goodness.
not the part that you don't have to grind. That's absolutely true. But the part where you have to sacrifice one for the other, that is not true.
Yeah.
Generally, that could be true maybe in certain situations. But I think if you're growing something, a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're growing a business for your family, you can't disregard your family. You can't abandon your family. They're the ones that you're doing it for. So they have to be part of that process with you. Doesn't mean there's conflict or there's not going to be days where you're telling them, look, I wrote this book, Chris. I mean, my wife for 4 months, she was like, I can't believe like you're selfish with this. I said, but I set that expectation. She knew ahead of time. Like I told her after our meeting, I said, I got this guy. I got this publisher. Like, you know, it's time to go now. I got to do this. And she got it. She good, but I set that expectation, but there was still conflict through it. And I think in business, we can grow the business and we can have great families and friends and relationships. We don't have to compromise or sacrifice.
Yeah. You don't. Absolutely don't. It's a myth that you do.
Hmm.
And you know, and that's wonderful to hear about. And the fact that you set that expectation. And there are plenty of people who are not entrepreneurs, who are just doing their 9 to 5, who do the same thing of ignoring their family
Right,
because,
right.
well, I've got to be in this softball league. I've got to be in this bowling league. Well, you know, get together with the guys on Friday night, and this is just what we do.
Mm,
Instead
mm.
of, gosh, what if you just spent that night with your wife going out to eat instead, or your family? Hello.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you talk the first responder community is, and you might have seen this in the military too, but the first responder community, you know, is it's getting better, but it's historically bad at that. It's cops working a lot of
Yeah.
overtime. I mean, I know cops who didn't want to be home because of, you know, of the family situation, the home situation. So they would work more overtime shifts to avoid being home. So I understand how that happens, but I think like you hit the head, our children pay the price more than anything. Our kids
Yeah.
will pay the price for, you know, us not being active in their lives. And you have 10 grandkids. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. And a little crazy. But I can see how it's affected them because if I had not gone out of my way to establish a decent relationship with their parents, my kids, and their spouses, I wouldn't be able to spend all this time with them.
Mm.
We had one of my granddaughters turn 10 yesterday, and we had her over for the entire day. We did all these fun things and crafts together. There was, uh, you know, just connecting so much more with her because of that. And it's never just doing fun things. There are always those little conversations that pop up because they're asking questions, this or that or the other thing. And so now I'm impacting their life. I'm so honored to be able to do that in this small way. And then what's that going to do with their kids and my great
Mm.
grandkids? You know, again, think about the real legacy that you're leaving.
So you said legacy, Chris. I think that's the greatest. There is nothing, in my opinion. Just like you said, there's nothing greater than what we could pass on to our kids, who then pass it on to their 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 kids. It just keeps going. If we build positive stuff, or if we build negative stuff, that generational trauma, we're going to pass that on too.
Yep, absolutely. Because are my great grandkids going to know? They'll know nothing about me, but it's all right because what they will know and what they will feel are those positive impacts that have gone down and hopefully been multiplied along the way, you know, instead of subtracted.
Exactly. Yeah, that's incredible. Chris, I'll put all your contact info below so people can reach out to you. I have a feeling people are going to want to connect with you. You're an amazing guy. You've helped me tremendously on this journey. And I'm not just saying that this is my idea to reach out to you. I said, Chris, let's do a show. a conversation to talk about what you do, because I'm so moved and inspired by you for the help you've given me. I believe I'm on a path to really help people in a big way, and that would not have been possible without you. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. It's the reason I do what I do.
All the best to you, brother. Be well.
You too.
Thank you for being a part of this community. We have to stick together and encourage each other. It's through the empowerment and support of one another that we can help each other overcome whatever season we're in, weather the storms. Please go to my website, motivate-change.com, and there you can buy the book. You can also get the book directly off Amazon, but you can also see some of the other coaching services, speaking services, and other things that we offer to really help people develop into the best people that we can be. Thank you for being a part of this community. Together we can do it.